Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Technology News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Ben Felix. Today I'm going to be discussing E3, an annual video game trade show being canceled, new Apple products that just dropped, Verizon launching a Yahoo-branded phone, Apple potentially acquiring Disney, and I'll finish off by giving you some ideas of how to utilize technology to stay connected with family and friends during this time where everyone is being encouraged to social distance. So, let's get into it. Now, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, better known as E3, has been canceled. Entertainment Software Association, which puts on the annual video game trade show, announced the cancellation on their website. They released this following statement. After careful consultation with our member companies regarding the health and safety of everyone in our industry, our fans, our employees, our exhibitors, and our longtime E3 partners, we have made the decision to cancel E3 2020, scheduled for June 9th through 11th in Los Angeles. Following increased and overwhelming concerns about the COVID-19 virus, we felt this was the best way to proceed during such an unprecedented global situation. We are very disappointed that we are unable to hold this event for our fans and supporters, but we know it's the right decision based on the information we have today. Our team will be reaching out directly to exhibitors and attendees with information about providing full refunds. We are also exploring options with our members to coordinate an online experience to showcase industry announcements and news in June 2020. Updates will be shared on e3expo.com. We thank everyone who shared their views on reimagining E3 this year. We look forward to bringing you E3 2021 as a reimagined event that brings fans, media, and the industry together in a showcase that celebrates the global video game industry. So, as you can see, it's, E3 is one of those big, really well-known expos for video games. It's probably one of the biggest ones in the world that comes out off the top of my head. I know Comic-Con has some video game element to it also, but that one's a little more broader range. But this is just, as we've been kind of talking about the past couple weeks, this is just a null collateral effect of coronavirus and the pandemic that's going on right now, and we see how it's affecting all these different industries. The event wasn't supposed to be until June 2020, and they've already, we're in March, and they're already going ahead and canceling it. So that right there tells you that, they don't know what to expect, and a lot of these companies are bailing out on these events really early. So this really sucks, but seeing the way these things are going, some of these companies that we're going to participate in these trade shows like E3, I know some of them are talking through and trying to figure out ways to still be able to roll out their products, even though they might not be able to do it at E3. They're going to find new ways to be able to promote those products. Sony just today had a little presentation they did online to kind of talk about some of the features for the new PlayStation 5 that's aimed to be dropped, I believe, later this year. So I think you're going to see more companies doing that, and as we get into later in the show, we're going to be talking about some new Apple products that just dropped. And Apple usually does a big spring event, kind of, they do twice a year, spring, a fall one, where they announce new products that they have dropping, and they didn't do one this year, and rightfully so with everything going on. It would have been bad timing, but they still went ahead and decided to drop those products. And so but you're just seeing how businesses are having to adjust amidst this time of uncertainty with the virus, and also just consumers really having to be frugal with their money. Also, after South by Southwest getting canceled, Coachella being postponed until October, and sporting events around the country and the world for that matter getting canceled or being played with no fans. But we're at the point where even it being played with no fans is not an option. Everything's just canceled or postponed. The news of E3 doesn't come as a surprise, and like I talked about last week with South by Southwest, this is just going to be a continuing, ongoing trend as these companies just, kind of have to. One, they're being forced to by the government. Now it's gotten to the point where, you can't have gatherings of more than 10 people. Airline companies are suffering, and it's sad to see, but hoping, we're doing all this work to flatten the curve, and that way we can, be back to normal in the next couple of months. And if they're able, I think if this is able to be handled within the next month or so, these companies could really aim towards the back end of the year to really get going with some of these products they have going, and really just, rebranding and getting a new kickstart and going about getting their products out there, getting word about it. It's just going to be interesting to see how everyone bounces back from this hard time, but hoping it goes for the best. Now we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some new products Apple just rolled out. So sit tight, and we'll be right back.
Do you work in the world of marketing and advertising? Are you a media buyer or the owner of an agency? Have you been looking for a podcast to help stay on top of all the goings-on of those worlds? The GSMC Marketing News Podcast is dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning marketing and advertising. Get the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast has you covered, whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand.
And we're back from the break. Last segment, we talked about E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, a premier trade event for the video game industry being canceled as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. In this segment, we'll be talking about some new products Apple has just rolled out. Now, first up, we'll be taking a look at the new MacBook Air. The biggest new feature of the MacBook Air that has a lot of people excited is the improved scissor switch keyboard, which Apple is branding as the Magic Keyboard, similar to what the MacBook Pro has right now. The new Air also offers double the performance, featuring 10th generation Intel Ice Lake processors, up to 1.2 gigahertz quad-core i7. The graphics on this new Air are also much improved. I believe they say 80% more improved than the last Air. And this Air now features Intel Iris Plus graphics, which, helps make that graphic 10 times or 80 times better, as Apple has put it. Another thing to like about this new product is that the base starts at $999, unlike its predecessor, which began at $100 more. That's a good thing to hear, as especially during this current climate. $100 might not seem like that. $100 less might not seem like that, but it really $100 can make that difference. So it's cool to see Apple kind of recognizing the market, bringing the price down. And hopefully they continue to do that with a lot of their products, especially the iPhones. The prices on those iPhones really need to drop, because I got the iPhone 11 Pro when it dropped, because I had the 7 Plus for the longest time, and the 7 Plus had stopped making calls, so I needed to upgrade. So I figured I might as well get the 11 Pro, but the 11 Pro was about $1,100, and I mean, that's ridiculous. So it's cool to I paid more for paying more for a cell phone than you would for a laptop is ridiculous in my head. And so hopefully Apple starts working on trying to really reduce those prices more, and I think they're gonna start getting kind of caught in a bind where people are going to be less inclined to buy their products because the prices are so high, and they're going to have to relook at their marketing and the prices they're throwing out there. But to continue, Apple also announced a new generation of iPad Pros. Both the 11-inch and the 12.9-inch sizes look identical to last year's models, but there's a new processor and new camera system inside them both. So those are like the two major differences from last year's iPad Pros and this year's. Apple's headline feature is that it has a LiDAR scanner, or LiDAR scanner, to go along with its camera for depth sensing and AR. But what most people are going to notice is that very new keyboard that you can get with it. Now, similar to the MacBook Air, which has the Magic Keyboard, the iPad Pros come with a attachable, or you can buy an attachable keyboard for the iPad Pros. And this one also, these keyboards are also considered Magic keyboards, similar to the ones in the MacBook Air. The keyboard unfolds and elevates the iPad to a more comfortable viewing position. As you can see, when you look up different pictures of it online, it almost looks like the iPad is floating, which is a really cool feature, I think. I know I have an iPad, and that's like one of the older ones, and it has to sit flatly on like the stand it has. I don't have a keyboard, but just the similar style of some of these other keyboards is the keyboard is right there, and your finger could be covering the screen. So the elevated design, it's almost similar to how those Mac screens are, where the screen almost looks like it's floating. And the cool thing about the keyboard, another cool feature of the keyboard, is that it also has a trackpad on it. And the movement of the trackpad seems to be very smooth and very well featured to the keyboard. So if you want to get the keyboard attachment for the new iPad Pros, you can buy those right now. I believe they are running for $349. Now, both iPads are available online for either $799 or $949 for 128 gigabyte Wi-Fi configurations, depending on the size. They're available to order online now, and Apple says they'll ship out on March 25th, which I believe is next Monday or something along those lines, Monday or Tuesday. Talking earlier with the E3 conference, it'll just be interesting to see how well these products do. With Apple dropping them, right at this point, Apple could have easily delayed the drop of these, but I think they feel very confident in their products, and rightfully so. They are Apple. They've been running this tech game for the longest time. Their products always do well, and so it's no surprise for them to have that kind of confidence in themselves. We'll just have to see what the numbers are on the sales for these products when they eventually come out, and it'll be interesting to also see how this affects Apple's event for later this year, because there's a lot of talks of the iPhone 12, or I've also heard talks of them potentially going back and releasing an iPhone 9, since they jumped from 8 to 10, because it was, I believe, the 10-year anniversary of the iPhone. So they decided to jump from ditch the 9 and go straight to 10. But I know for sure there's going to be a 12, but it'll be interesting to do, because I think Apple is getting to the point where, they recognize their products are expensive, and so all their products are expensive. So I think they're trying to get more cautious of having, cheaper options that are, it's not like cheaper products, but, cheaper options for those people that can't afford the ridiculous, $1,100 phone, but they don't need all those extra snazzy features, the 3 cameras, 4 cameras, all the extra, nooks and crannies, the people that just want the Apple product, but in a simplified version and a cheaper price. So I think they're going to work more towards that. I know they did that a couple years ago with their iPad. The one I have right now, as I spoke about earlier, it's a version they released for college students, and I got it when I was still in college, and it's great. I love it. It works perfect for what I need it for. There was no way I could afford an iPad Pro or just normal iPad for the price it was running, being a broke college student. But this one was great. Got it for $300, which was a really great price, and it's still been working phenomenal for me. I take it everywhere with me whenever I'm traveling. I don't bring my laptop. The iPad serves as my laptop, so I like it a lot. So I really think it will be good for Apple to really be able to, work in those cheaper products that are cheaper in price but not quality, because I think you need that range, especially now, where it's going to take this country a while to recover from this, economic hit that's been suffered by the coronavirus, and weaving in those cheaper options will really help people a long way. And I think Apple's getting more socially aware of that, and so it'll be cool to see how they work from that. Now, we're going to take another break, and when we return, we're going to discuss another exciting product Apple is rolling out, the Apple Power Beats 4. So sit tight, and we'll be right back after these couple messages.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Technology News Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Felix. Now, last segment, we talked about Apple's new MacBook Air and new iPads and new Magic Keyboard. This segment, I'm going to go over the new Power Beats 4 that just became available for purchase March 18th. Now, the Power Beats 4, as many of you know, I'm sure, Apple acquired Beats a few years back, and so I guess the technical term, it's Apple Power Beats. I don't know, but they're calling them Power Beats just straight up. But this is the 4th generation of the Power Beats series, and these Power Beats will have up to 15 hours of battery life this time around, which is up from the 12 hours you'd get from the Power Beats 3, which were released in 2016. So 4 years later, the Power Beats 4 are coming out, and actually last year, towards the end of last year, Apple released the Power Beats Pro. The Power Beats Pro are fully wireless. They don't have the wires that go around their ear. They're Apple's version of AirPods, but for the Power Beats. Those really looked awesome when they dropped, and the Power Beats Pro, I've heard nothing but good news or good word about them, and it's something I want to eventually get. I just don't have no need for it right now because I have AirPods, and I also have Power Beats 2 I think I have Power Beats 3. I have Power Beats 3, and those still work pretty well for me. So, no urgent reason to buy the Power Beats Pro for now, but when I do eventually want to get it, I'm really excited because they look great. I have AirPods, like I mentioned, and those are my go-to headphones for working out. But when I do forget my AirPods, I use my Power Beats 3, and those are great, but the wires kind of tangle sometimes. But what I do like about the Power Beats 3, the wired, around the neck style, is that with the latch that goes around your ear, it really stays on your ear well, especially when you're partaking in those intense workouts. You can have a variety of movement, whether it's jumping, quick jerk movements, going up and down, running on a treadmill, whatever it may be. Those Power Beats 3, the one I had, the Power Beats series, they stay on your ear really well, unlike the AirPod, which if I'm running or doing something vigorous, every now and then I'll have to adjust it back in my ear, or I could feel one of them falling out. And as I'm sure you guys know, if you have AirPods, they are really easy to lose. I know people that have gone through 3-4 AirPods because they just lose really easy. So that's one thing with the AirPods that kind of sucks. But I digressed. Sorry. Back to the Power Beats 4. Like I said, they have up to 15 hours of battery life, and the Power Beats 4 take 5 minutes of charging. 5 minutes of charging will get you 60 minutes of playback. So that's not bad at all. That's really great. And that's also, I think, very similar to the Power Beats 3, because I have the Power Beats 3, and sometimes I know I'll go from work to the gym, which is a 10-minute drive, and I'll plug it in my car while I'm driving because I'll forget, I keep them in my car, so I'll just plug them in my car to charge while I'm driving from either home to work, which is a 5-10 minute drive. And usually in that time span, they charge long enough for me that when I'm at the gym, they last through my whole workout, which is really great. So 5 minutes of charging, getting you 60 minutes of playback is really awesome. Now, the earbuds will reportedly use Apple's new H1 wireless chip, similar to the Power Beats Pro, which should mean support for features like Hey Siri and announce messages with Siri. The earbuds will reportedly be available in black, white, and red. And the Power Beats will run you $149, which is not bad at all. That is very similar to what the AirPods go for right now. I'm pretty sure. That is the second generation of AirPods. I don't know about the AirPod Pro, but $149 is not bad at all compared to the Power Beats Pro, which is $250, so $100 more. So if you're looking for a good, somewhat affordable wireless headphone, the Power Beats 4, it is wired, but it's still like a Bluetooth headphone, if that makes sense. And one of the things they changed with these new Power Beats 4 that is different from the Power Beats 3 is the earbuds cable is now attached to the arm that hooks around the top of your ear as you wear them, rather than descending from the front. And so I think this will create more comfortability when wearing them and working out and stuff like that. And also, I know when I had with my Power Beats 3, the cables kind of get tangly and all in their case when they're wrapped up. And so this cable is more of a circular and less of a flat like the Power Beats 3. And so I think that'll help it stay straight more when you pull it straight out the case. You don't have to worry about it being all crinkled up or anything like that. Now, let's see. And Apple is claiming that these headphones should basically sound the same as the Powerbeats Pro, which remain among the best true wireless earbuds out on the market right now in terms of audio quality, from all the different reviews I've been hearing about it. So, like I said earlier, if you're looking for a really good quality of headphones for, fairly cheap price in the $150 range, the Powerbeats 4 will, be really great for that, for working out, and, even for using if you're at work or wherever, because, with up to 15 hours of battery time, you could use it most of your day, and you don't have to worry about it charging it or anything like that. And it's just really nice to have that freedom of the cables. That really, that's one of the biggest things I hated for the long time. Always having to plug my cable up to my phone. I would always drop my phone, or get the ear string caught on a chair or a doorknob or something like that. So if you use headphones a lot, these are just another great types of headphones you could get. If you're not looking to get AirPods or anything like that, these work just as fine. And continuing on with some of the features on it, there's a power button on the left earbud, a volume rocker, and a multi-function B button on the right earbud only for controlling music. And so that is the Powerbeats 4. There's the Apple kind of rolled it out in a very the product almost came out as the rumors about it were coming out, and because people are already saying that Walmart already has them in stock. So if you want, you can go out to your local Walmart and you could probably find it right now. I haven't checked myself, but from what I've been reading, they are already out in stores, and so I'm sure that means they're also out in Apple stores. I don't know if Apple is one of those stores that have shut down for a brief period with the whole corona pandemic, but if they're not and you're looking to get the earphones real soon, you can go hit up an Apple store, walk in there, and they'll have it ready for you. So Apple Powerbeats 4 out now. If you want to order them online, they became available last night, so they should get to you by next week, early next week. Now, that's all I have for you with the Powerbeats 4. I'm going to pause here for a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to be talking about Verizon's new Yahoo branded mobile phone. Yes. So, we'll be right back.
Are you a business owner? Someone interested in the latest news that might affect your business? Then check out the GSMC Business News Podcast, a show dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning business, technology, and the stock market. Get a head start on the day as we keep you updated on the latest goings-on Wall Street, money, jobs, and technology. The GSMC Business News Podcast has you covered.
Welcome back. Last segment, we talked about the new Apple Powerbeats 4 that are set to release soon. Now, this segment, we're going to be talking about Verizon's new Yahoo branded mobile phone. Now, Verizon is launching a Yahoo branded mobile phone service called Yahoo Mobile in an attempt to use consumers' total apathy toward familiarity with the Yahoo brand to kickstart a new wireless provider. Now, when I read about this, it just kind of made no sense to me at all. I still, after reading about it, makes no sense. But, it falls in the strange lines of like Spectrum coming out with a phone, Spectrum announcing that they have a new mobile phone service, and in the area I am, Spectrum has a monopoly. It's like Spectrum it's like the monopoly for internet, and then you could get AT&T Uverse, but it's not all that great. So most people just kind of tend to just cave and go with Spectrum, because like that's really your only option. And also, now that I think about it, the apartment I'm living in, they have a contract with Spectrum, so that's really all you can get. So there goes that. But well, it's weird seeing how all these like other companies are rolling out their phones, and you have the ones that have been there for a while, like the Boost Mobiles and all whatnot, Cricket, that have been there. But some of these new ones that are emerging, I don't know if they're like, has there been a demand for them, or what may be the case. And I think part of it why some of these, I guess, as I'm talking it out, with some of these new phone companies rolling out, is a lot of these companies are starting to merge or just grow really big, as we see recently Sprint and T-Mobile merge, and that merger just became official like a month or so ago. And so that has a lot of people concerned, because there's a potentially of T-Mobile / Sprint, like basically now that it's two companies, they can up the price more. And if you had either one of them, like I have T-Mobile, I don't know if like what I'm paying right now is going to go up more or whatnot, and what's going to, like, I don't know how much necessarily that acquisition is going to affect my mobile service. So I'm interested to see how all that plays out. Now, back to the story though. Yahoo Mobile would work off of Verizon's network, and it would offer only one plan: unlimited LTE data for $40 per month, plus throttled tethering and a subscription to Yahoo Mail Pro. It's a good price. It is a good price for all that it's claiming to have: unlimited LTE data, and Verizon charges $65 per month for a prepaid monthly plan, and AT&T charges $45 per month. And I know T-Mobile breaks theirs down kind of. It has like three. I think it has like 50, 60, and 70 or something along those lines. So for what they're rolling out, it is a really good price. But the thing about this all is that this is just all a really poor effort at Yahoo rebranding. And the more I read about this story and just on the phone in general, it turns out that Yahoo Mobile is a rebranding of Visible, another spin-off phone service that Yahoo had started. And it really is confusing why Verizon is even partnering with Yahoo. And I'm sure many of you guys had that question. I know I did. And so I kind of looked into it more, and I saw that Verizon had purchased Yahoo roughly 3 years ago. And the main purpose of this purchase is Verizon wanted Yahoo's ad technology. So basically, Verizon acquired Yahoo for the ad technology, and then they've kind of just like left it to be. And from what I've seen with Yahoo, there really hasn't been much growth on that platforms, like on that sense. And I'm not really here to bash Yahoo, because I'm one of those rare people that I still have a Yahoo email that I use like frequently. And the only reason I still have it is just like I have so many stuff connected to that Yahoo, that like that email, that I don't want to spend the time transferring everything over and trying to do all that. I'm sure I'm bound to forget something, but I might do that now that I have more free time on my hand, kind of with basically being quarantined in my house. But other than that, Yahoo, I don't know what else Yahoo has going for them. I think they're just kind of chucking along, and I know they have good content as far as like sports it comes, because every now and then, when big stories break, it's always these big reporters that are working for Yahoo Sports. So I think that aspect of theirs, Yahoo Sports, is really doing well. And then their fantasy football, fantasy basketball, those like sports related activities and games they have on their platforms still does well. That's another thing. actually another reason why I have my Yahoo Mail, because, me and my friends have been doing a fantasy football league for years, and we do it through Yahoo Sports. So there you go. That's why I still have my Yahoo Mail. But like I said, it still makes no sense why they're rolling this phone out right now. And going back to the Yahoo phone, another negative thing that stands out is that the speed is capped to 5 megabytes per second, and data is deprioritized, which means with how Verizon has configured their deprioritization, anytime the network is busy, your data will slow to a crawl and your phone will likely think it's offline. So Verizon being one of the biggest cell phone companies out there right now, and a lot of people having Verizon, if they're having a lot of traffic, or if you're in an area that say might not have the greatest signal, they can drain basically the signal going from your phone to help support the signal to other phones, and so you might be left screwed. So that is just one thing to keep in mind if you do eventually, for some reason, want to get this Yahoo phone, which I think, it could be great for, I don't know. I don't know who it'd be great for. I was going to say for kids, but at that point, I think there are better plans out there for kids in general. So this just seems like a really, shoot from the hip type of effort from Verizon. They're like, hey, why the heck? We got this, extra time and extra money, and let's throw it towards this thing. Give it a bone, and see if anyone catches on to it, and see if you can get something going from it. If not, they'll probably nix it by like in a few months or towards the end of the year. You won't hear much about it, which will be no surprise at all. So that's just one thing that I saw interesting about that story. And like I said, it goes in the continued lines of some of these other other companies rolling out phone services that I'm just like, do we really need your phone service right now? Or like, is there a market for that? I guess there is, because you're rolling it out. But yeah, it's their money, it's their resources. They could do what they want with it. We're going to take another quick break, and when I come back after that break, I want to talk about a story that caught my eye about, two of my favorite companies, and about one acquiring the other, which I thought was really fascinating. And I've kind of speculated for a while, but it'll be interesting to see if it was to actually happen. So we'll talk about that a little more in the next segment.
Are you looking for a podcast that gives you all of the latest news from the world of finance? Then check out the GSMC Financial News Podcast. We'll delve into the ups and downs of the stock market, changes in the economy, and news from the world of real estate and technology. From breaking news on the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or the overseas market, to updates on the bond market, if there's money to be made, we'll cover it on the GSMC Financial News Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Technology News Podcast. I am your host, Ben Felix. In the last segment, we talked about Verizon releasing a new Yahoo branded mobile phone, and why, I think it's kind of a bad idea, but we'll see how it works out for them. Now, in this segment, I want to talk about a story that caught my eye a couple of days ago involving two companies I'm a huge fan of, Apple and Disney. So as we all know right now, and as I kind of been talking about throughout the podcast, the stock market has hit new lows. I think it's the lowest it's ever been, and this even goes dating back to the Great Depression and all that. So all these major companies right now are suffering some huge major losses. Airlines are begging the government for funding because they're at the point of, filing for bankruptcy, because everyone's being discouraged from traveling, leaving their homes, going out, being in huge crowds in public. They're saying don't be with, in crowds of 10 or more. So it's it's crazy right now in the US and really all over the world. But one of the companies that's still, holding off fairly well is Apple. And one company that's not doing so well is Disney. Disney's stocks has plummeted like 38% in the past few days, and it just keeps dropping bad. And I saw this story come up as I was kind of just scrolling through Twitter that caught my eye, and it was Wall Street analyst Bernie McTernan talking about, this could be the time where an equally huge conglomerate like Apple could take advantage of the lower stocks of Disney. And when I read this, it immediately caught my attention because, like I said, I love both of those companies. I have a bunch of Apple products. I've spent a good amount of this podcast talking about Apple products, and also in like previous episodes I've talked about Disney. And in the first episode we talked about Disney getting a new CEO. So Bernie kind of threw this idea out there that Apple, if they wanted to, this would be the time they could swoop in and purchase Bob Chapek's Disney, and this would be the beginning of an Apple Disney, like Apple Disney, which would be really interesting. And so in a letter to clients, this is what Bernie McTernan had to suggest. We believe those with long-term horizons, like mega cap companies with large cash balances and whose equity outperformed Disney over the last 3 weeks, like Apple, could take advantage of the volatility. The upside from acquiring Disney would be securing their content streaming strategy and potential synergies from adding the emerging Disney ecosystem to the iOS platform. McTernan also made sure to note Disney has lost approximately $85 billion in the last 3 weeks. Yep, you heard that right. $85 billion in the last 3 weeks. So this is all, it's kind of been a rough past few weeks for Disney, and it all really started with Bob Iger stepping down from role as CEO, as we talked about a few weeks back. And immediately as that news came, stock started to drop, and it was mainly because the news of Bob Iger dropping was a huge surprise. Nobody had saw it coming. There was no forewarning from Disney. They didn't roll it out smoothly. I don't know what happened in all that process. He might have seen this whole Corona thing, but I don't know. But it was not done smoothly in a good way where, you have your investors' confidence. And so their stocks had started plummeting then. And then, it just kind of was an equal disaster, right? That happening. And then a couple weeks later, we get to this point with the Corona pandemic. And so losing $85 billion in the last 3 weeks is a huge hit for Disney. It's roughly 1/3 of its total market cap. And as of that writing, the mouse's market capitalization was hovering around $165 billion, while Apple carried $107 billion in cash and securities. So I, for the longest time, have tied Apple and Disney to each other. They're the equivalent of dating without putting a label on it. Steve Jobs played a big part in the development of Pixar, which Disney eventually purchased. And after Disney ended up buying Pixar in the mid-2000s, Steve Jobs became the largest shareholder of Disney. And so, in fact, Steve Jobs even had a seat on the board of the company. Now, in Bob Iger's memoir he released last September, the former Disney CEO suggested the companies might have even merged already if Jobs were still alive. As we know, Steve Jobs died back in 2011 of pancreatic cancer. And I read a book by Ed. I forgot what his name, but he's one of the big guys that helped. One of the creators of Pixar. There we go. One of the creators of Pixar is a book he wrote a few years back called Creativity Inc. And I read the book, and he talks a lot about Steve Jobs in it because many people don't know, but Steve Jobs played a huge role in Pixar becoming who it is. He helped with, some of the early funding they needed, some of like navigating some through the technology they were trying to do, and the creativity they were trying to achieve with their animation, and just really bold stuff that wasn't being done at the time. And without Steve Jobs, Pixar would have never came to be what it is, and then Pixar would have also never gotten to the relationship it had with Disney, with it eventually, Disney eventually purchasing Pixar. And Pixar really, in a way, did save Disney, because, Disney Studios at that point was hitting a rough stretch where there was just no good movies or anything coming out like that. But Pixar really came in being a heel and picked Disney up as a company, and the creative heads on Pixar's side were able to come in to Disney Studios and really help out in revamping Disney Studios and helping them get back on their feet and be able to really come out with creative movies and, get back on the right turn. So Apple and Disney have had a really close relationship for the longest time. I compare it to, two people that, are basically dating, but they just haven't put a label on it. And so this is something I've always considered for the longest time, just knowing the connection that Steve Jobs had with Pixar and, with Disney too. And there's just super similarities between the company. And so that's something I can definitely see happening in the next 5 years even. I would not be surprised if that happened. And that honestly would be way less surprising than when Disney acquired 20th Century and a lot of those assets. So this is all speculation, but if it were to happen, that would, be like Thanos getting the final gemstone needed to complete the Infinity Gauntlet. Disney, Apple would really get a boost up on its streaming service, because Apple TV alone is not doing too great compared to what Disney Plus is, and so they could combine assets on that set. But the other thing about it is, that just gives Apple more of a monopoly on controlling prices. And we talked about earlier where, they're starting to notice like they need to drop their prices low. But if you acquire Disney at that point, you could almost do whatever you want, I feel like. So it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out, if it actually were to. But once again, that's just all speculation. And, wanted to tease it a little. Now, we're going to take one final break. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about some useful apps and products we can use to still remain connected while we are all being encouraged to social distance during this coronavirus pandemic. So we'll be right back after this break.
The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Technology News Podcast. In the last segment, we discussed the possibility of Apple acquiring Disney, as Disney suffers major loss in the stock market and is very vulnerable right now for a full-on acquisition. Now, in this last segment, I wanted to talk about ways we can use technology beyond just texting and calling to stay connected with family and friends, while the government is encouraging everyone to practice social distancing as a way to try to combat the coronavirus. Now, during this time, a lot of people are going to be doing a lot of streaming. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a way you and your friends could watch the same Netflix content and chat while you guys are in your separate homes? Well, there actually is. Chrome has an extension called Netflix Party, and this extension makes it possible for you to watch Netflix remotely with friends and family. The extension synchronizes video playback and adds group chat. So, you guys just go up, add the extension, you and your friends all get together. It kind of sends them an invite through a link, I believe. They jump on the link. You guys all start watching together, and it will be simultaneously synchronized through all of y'all's TVs, or not. I think you could do it through TVs. I'm not sure, but it will be synchronized playback, and if one person stops it, it stops it on all screen. You'll have the chat up there to talk through. So it sounds like a cool, fun idea that I think it's been there already, but with this social distancing going on, it kind of popped up all over Twitter and everywhere else, where people were like, hey, here's a cool way to stay connected with people even though you can't see them face to face. So just one cool way to stay connected during this time. Another great way to stay connected with friends and family and be able to see each other's faces is through group video chat. If all your family and friends have an iPhone or Apple product like an iPad, you can easily do this through FaceTime. FaceTime is really great. It's just like calling, but you can see each other's faces. Video chatting. But the cool thing about FaceTime is FaceTime allows up to 32 people to FaceTime at once. That sounds hectic. That sounds like a lot. I've never tried that. I think the most I've ever had jump on Facebook or FaceTime once. I think we did like 5 or 6 people, and so I think 32 would be obnoxious. But if 6 or 7 of your closest friends wanted to hop on, catch up or play games, I don't even know what you would do, but I'm sure there's a lot of creative avenues in that sense. But that's just a really cool feature where a lot of you get to jump on at the same time and be able to see each other's faces, laugh, joke, tell how you're surviving through this quarantine you're stuck in right now, and just be able to share stories, encourage each other, and just be able to still stay connected while being separated. And if you don't have an iPhone, don't worry. Snapchat has a group video chat feature also, and that allows up to 15 people to hop on at the same time. So it's very similar to FaceTime, but just with half the amount of people. And 32 I feel like is an overkill anyway. I think that 10 people cushion is probably the most I would even try to do. So that's just another way. And then even beyond that, I'm sure there's other ways that you could do group video chat. I gotta look into Skype. I don't know if Skype would have something, but I'm sure they do. Skype is being a key video chat platform for a while, so I'm sure they have a feature where you could get multiple people on there to chat. But whatever it is, look for different ways to really be able to stay connected. And then lastly, social media in general is a great way to stay connected with people, but one app I really like personally is Twitter. I like Twitter because I reach a large number of people quickly through tweets and retweets. I'm able to follow the work of other experts in like my field, or just other people that share the same interest in me. I'm a huge sports fan, so I talk a lot about sports with my friends on Twitter, even at this time when there's no sports going on, and it's been rough. Trust me, it's been so rough. But there's still NFL news dropping right now that's worth talking with, like Tom Brady officially leaving the Patriots, and although talk is he's going to join the Bucks, I've been losing my mind about that on Twitter with my friends, because I'm a huge Patriots fan, and so when I heard that news, my first reaction, I tweeted something out about it, and then my friends all tweeted out about it, and I was able to have conversations about the topic with them on there, and it's just a real cool way of instantaneously almost getting to respond to something and Twitter is really great for like when you're watching the same event at the same time. I love Twitter. Like obviously during sporting events, but also it's great during like award shows, when you're watching award shows and you're reacting to like, oh, like they did not just say that, or like this movie or that, artist should not have won, that it should have gone to someone else. So it's a great in the moment kind of responding, showing your reaction, and getting to debate with getting to interact with other people, and sometimes it leads to debate and all that. But Twitter, really fun. I love it, and it's just great for keeping up to date with the latest news and developments, and social media trends, seeing what's hashtagging, seeing what's trending. There we go. Hashtag what's trending. Struggling right here towards the end, but appreciate you if you've been listening this far. So those are just some ways you guys can stay connected with family and friends during this time of social distancing. It's important we all play our part to help flatten the curve, but we shouldn't also have to suffer socially through it too. So stay connected with those people, reach out to loved ones, talk to them, and there's nothing wrong also with texting and calling, but just trying to give you, if you get bored of those means, there's some other means that you can go to stay connected. So thank you for listening to the GSMC Technology News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really helps us out. Also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and have a good night. Stay safe out there.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.